with the fundamentals at all. They just think, oh, I have this tool. It'll tell me what the ICP is. It'll tell me what they need. It'll tell me how to sell this thing. And in some ways, it can help you, but it can very quickly just pull you in the wrong direction because you don't know what the actual basic thing is in order to make it. It's like making soup with no water. If you boil all these vegetables, you probably just burn them. But it is soup, right? Like that's the whole idea. But water is the foundational element of making a soup. Let's put some water in first.
I definitely want to double click on that, but just to rewind kind of what you said about how AI is making meaningful value. What I'm hearing you say is that it helps curious people find information faster, find trends,
Yep.
pivot faster because all of that information is out at our fingertips. And if we learn to be really curious about what it is we're looking for, and how we use it. And I always say that the best salespeople are really the ones that are the most curious. Like they're always asking like why, how, when, that
Tell me
kind of
more
thing.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Tell
Agreed.
me more about that. That's very interesting. But let's actually talk about sort of what you said. Like if you don't know how to use it, and we I think talked about how AI can make the best reps worse. Sorry, the worst reps worse faster,
Faster.
right?
At
Yeah,
scale.
and
Yeah.
yeah, at scale. And so tell us more about what you mean by that.
So an example would be somebody who's using AI, they might say, write me a cold email campaign for CEOs in this industry. Okay. You'll get something. And then the worst part is they'll probably send that versus a better input. And again, we could scale this up in context, right? But just a quick example would be given that this is our ICP and you label with the ICP, it's CEOs that are in the ages between 40 and 51 years old. They're mostly female. They have a tenure of 5 to 7 years in that role. Their deal is in this particular stage. This is the risk we've identified inside of this company. And here are the use cases we've identified. Taking this particular information, can you reframe 3 ways that we can create a value proposition that resonates with this type of person? Now, again, still a lot of work to do once we have that, but the amount of specificity that you take in with right, we got the water level right for our soup. Hey, this is what we know for sure is who we're trying to sell to. What are the different flourishes that we want to add to this soup to be appetizing for a conversation with that CEO? And so I say that all to say, you ask it for a couple of versions, and then you pick from those parts and pieces and you build something that you think will work really well. And then you have versions that you can then test. So one big thing I also want to put out for any person who's in sales, thinking about selling in this market or whatever else, one way is not the only way. There's so many ways to do it. So because you have a tool like this, it behooves you, in my opinion, to make multiple versions to test with smaller groups to see what messaging works and then scale up. I've worked with a lot of companies and people are like, oh, I downloaded a list of 3,000 leads. I'm ready to hit them all with this message. It's like, stop. Take 10 people and test 3 different messaging campaigns with each. Test the metrics, which one gets better open rates, which one gets reply rates. And then we double down a little bit more and we extend and we go that up until we get to some place where we can have some confidence to say, we're getting consistent open rate here. We're getting consistent replies and this messaging is landing. You have the capacity. This used to take months and months to do in the old days. Now you could do this in a couple of hours. Use that to scale up the right thing so it goes confidently in the right direction. And so that's one of the ways I think reps could be using it better. And I think when they do use that, it brings context, it brings in constraints, and it expands AI's actual ability to think within the bounds of what's useful for the conversation you want to have with your prospects.
Yeah.